Hey there, musical maniacs! Welcome to Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonani, and this week I thought we'd look at a lesser-known musical from Broadway's golden age, Happy Hunting.
Who could forget this great hit from the 50s, huh?
What led this 50s musical to have more drama offstage than on?
Oh, God!
It's fucking great.
And what does this show have to do with the career of Stephen Sondheim? Well, let's get into it and find out.
Okay, let's run.
Happy Hunting opened at the Majestic Theater, current home to Phantom of the Opera, on December 6, 1956, and closed almost 1 year later on November 30th, 1957, after 412 performances. It was directed by Abe Burrows and had a book by Howard Lindsay and Russell Krauss, and a score by Harold Carr and Matt Doobie. It starred the incomparable Ethel Merman, as well as movie star Fernando Lamas, Virginia Gibson, Gordon Polk, and Estelle Parsons making her Broadway debut in the chorus. Happy Hunting is rarely seen nowadays.
You've never seen it.
I've never seen it.
One of the reasons might be that the writers committed the sin of being topical.
Do you think it's too topical?
The show's plot hinges on the wedding of movie star Grace Kelly to Prince Rainier of Monaco, which was the wedding of the century, the biggest event in the world at the time.
Apparently, it's a big deal.
And in 1956, when this show premiered, it was still big news and was a great setting for a musical, but to modern audiences, especially today, the Princess Kelly wedding doesn't mean much.
Who's Grace Kelly?
And it's hard to fathom the mass appeal that this event had.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
The other reason it's rarely seen? It's just not a very good show.
Oh, snap!
I know it has its fans, and there is a lot to like in Happy Hunting.
No, it's not.
But a success, I think not. The book for the musical, clearly written with Ethel Merman in mind, by veteran team Lindsay and Krauss, was punchy but predictable.
The familiar stories, the broadly drawn characters, the convenient plot turn that bring a character around at exactly the right moment.
I've actually read some reports that the score was written first and the book was crafted around the existing score. And while I don't know that that's exactly true, I have to admit a lot of the songs seem to sort of come out of nowhere.
Whoa, where'd that come from?
And really have nothing to do at all with the already slight plot. The score by relative unknowns Harold Carr, who, I kid you not, was a dentist by day
I'm your dentist.
and maintained his dentistry practice the entire time he was making this musical.
What, should I quit my job?
But him and his writing partner Matt Doobie's score for Happy Hunting was just weak and not very memorable.
I don't remember a thing about it.
And except for one or two songs that Merman would continue to perform later in life, the score really never had a life outside of its original production.
No life at all.
Well, it can't be denied that the audiences and critics were not happy with what they saw on stage.
It stinks!
Nobody disliked the show more than its star Ethel Merman.
Will you shut up a minute so that I can tell you what happened?
The most legendary beltress of all time, Ethel Merman had not been on the stage in about 6 years since Call Me Madam in 1950. She had just married her third husband, Robert Six, who founded and owned Continental Airlines. She had moved to Denver with her kids and was really looking forward to a life of domesticity. She wanted to be a housewife and live peacefully, and she announced her retirement from the stage.
Is it true you're giving up a successful career to marry a man on the stage?
Yes.
So you won't be returning to the stage, ever?
I shan't.
You shan't?
I shan't.
Her husband, Bob Six, however, had different plans in mind. He felt that he married Ethel Merman, the Broadway star, not Ethel Merman, the housewife.
He said what?
And constantly bugged her to get back on the stage. And wanting to make him happy, she agreed. Don't worry, that marriage didn't last long.
Thank goodness!
So she didn't want to be back on Broadway to begin with, and on top of that, she was never happy with the score.
It's terrible. It's hardly even music.
In fact, after opening, Merman even had her friend Roger Edens, the legendary songwriter, write her 2 new songs, and she removed 2 of her least favorite songs in the show and replaced them with the new ones. There were definitely other reasons for her disliking her time on Happy Hunting, though.
All right, spill it.
Her co-star, the famous Latin lover of the silver screen, Fernando Lamas, he and Merman absolutely hated each other.
I hate you, you reptile.
Sticks and stones may break my bones.
I'd like to break every bone in your body.
You and who else, you big lummox?
Their feud and Lamas' antics backstage got more press than the show did. But before we get into all that drama, let's first get into the intended drama and break down the plot of Happy Hunting. Tallyho! 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 Act 1 opens on the tiny country of Monaco, all abuzz with the impending wedding of Grace Kelly and their own Prince Rainier. They flock around the palace gates and sing Postage Stamp Principality.
A fairy tale princess weds a prince at the wedding of the century. In this pint-sized pinpoint free shrunk postage stamp principality.
We first meet Sanford Stewart Jr., a lawyer who goes by Sandy, and his icy elitist mother. Though all of Philadelphia's high society is in Monaco to see Philadelphia's own Grace Kelly become royalty, Sandy is there on behalf of his law firm to investigate the failing finances of the Hotel Riviera. Beth Livingston, also from Philadelphia, sees Sandy and says hello, but Sandy can't quite place the name to the face and he sings Don't Tell Me.
Don't tell me, I know, it's right on the tip of my Isabel. No.
Beth's mother then enters, the bold and brassy Liz Livingston, and the reporters go nuts. Liz is an extremely wealthy woman.
Shut up, I'm rich.
And the darling of the Philadelphia society pages, she's also at war with the rest of Philly's upper crust.
Brazen.
Now to take her ticket and punch it for her.
Picked her out first crack like a cheap jack. Not much pick to her, if you ask me. Pick a little, talk a lot.
Pick a little, talk a little.
Cheap. Talk a lot, pick a little more.
You see, apparently, Liz married into society life, and once her husband passed away, her brassy ways were not accepted by Philly's jet set. The reporters ask Liz what she thinks of all the festivities, and she sings, "Gee, but it's good to be here."
Gee, but it's good to be here. I really feel it rare. There's nothing like this, not anywhere. There's a magic that fills the air. I'm so ecstatic, I could yell, I could dance about.
We find out that Liz has been trying to get into the palace all day to find out why her wedding invitations weren't waiting for her at her hotel lobby.
There's nothing here for you.
Liz's friend Maud enters, who has just come from the palace, and tells Liz that she checked the invitation list and her and her daughter aren't on it. They weren't invited.
Not invited? What do you mean I'm not invited?
In order to save face, Liz stages a robbery of all her clothes
Somebody came into my apartment and stole all of my clothes.
and says, well, if I have no clothes, I certainly can't go to the wedding that I was most definitely invited to.
Yeah, that's what happened.
After the reporters leave, Liz fesses up to her daughter Beth that the clothes weren't actually stolen.
They're not stolen!
They try to cheer each other up by singing the Mutual Admiration Society.
We belong to a mutual admiration society.
My baby and me. She thinks I'm beautiful and smart. I think that she's a work of art.
She says that I am heaven sent and I'm her fan club president.
I tell her I'm so proud of her. She says that she is proud of her.
But just before Liz can retrieve her clothes, they're found by the hotel manager, Arturo.
I found them all.
Apparently there was a witness to Liz's self-thievery, the hotel's most auspicious guest, the Duke of Granada, the future King of Spain.
Oh, I just can't wait to be king.
The Duke enters and recognizes Liz as the culprit, but decides to keep his mouth shut and not tell hotel management. Liz confesses to the Duke and explains the reasonings for her deceptions, and though there's an obvious spark and chemistry between the two, Liz takes the opportunity to try to one-up Grace Kelly and get her daughter a better husband.
Hey, why should she have a better husband than you do?
And immediately sets up her daughter and the Duke for a morning date the next day. Out on the terrace outside the hotel and by the pool, the guests sing For Love or Money.
Love or money. Money, 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 love or money.
Arturo brings Sandy, the lawyer who's there to investigate the hotel, his account book, and it immediately becomes clear to Sandy why the hotel is in such financial distress. The Duke of Granada has not paid his bills in over a year.
A year!
Beth comes outside and her and Sandy do a little flirting before Beth does something called the bikini dance for absolutely no reason whatsoever, I guess because musicals.
Musicals are about subtext!
On the veranda outside the Duke's suite, Sandy confronts the Duke and tells him either to pay his bills or get out.
Not so you! Show me the money! Show me the money! Yeah.
Initially highly insulted,
I'm insulted.
the Duke finds out that his entourage, including hotel manager Arturo, have been keeping from him the fact that for the last year he's been totally broke.
So he's poor.
Though I should mention, they never really explain why he's broke. I mean, if he's this royal, it doesn't make any sense. But a lot of things in the show don't make sense. So anyway, continuing on. Liz enters and congratulates the Duke on winning that previous day's motorcar race. She asks him why he likes to do his sort of dangerous activities like boat or car racing. He says that he loves danger and he sings, "It's like a beautiful woman."
It's like a beautiful woman, you know it's wrong for you, but you can't get it out of your system, you just can't leave it alone.
See, do you see what I'm talking about? How some of the songs just seem to come out of nowhere and have nothing to do with nothing?
I did notice, but I didn't want to say anything.
It's a little annoying, right? It's definitely kind of one of my little theater pet peeves.
The categories are fears and pet peeves.
Liz, still burned by the wedding snub and wanting to get her daughter a better husband than Grace Kelly ever had, immediately hatches a plan. She proposes to the Duke that she will pay all his outstanding debt. He, his entourage, and his horses can all go move on to her estate in Pennsylvania, all if he agrees to marry her daughter Beth.
It's a profit deal.
The Duke, of course, happily agrees.
Money, money, money.
Later at the dock, people are boarding the ship back to America. Sandy and his mother, the Duke and his new right-hand man Arturo, and Beth and Liz all get on board. As the ship leaves Monaco, the passengers all sing Wedding of the Year blues.
I am fatigued,
Bit.
bushed, pooped, dead.
I'd like to spend a week in bed.
Marriage! Give me a nice, juicy, messy divorce.
That night on the deck bar, Liz and the Duke get to talking. Liz tells the Duke all about her first husband and how they met, and sings Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Livingston was a gent, from his fingertips to his toes. There I stood looking up at him, there he stood looking down his nose. He said, "How'd you do? How are you?" I said to my future groom, "Mr. Livingston, I presume."
Later on, Sandy seeks out Beth. Sandy has been negotiating the wedding contract on behalf of Liz with Arturo on behalf of the Duke. Sandy is upset about the whole thing and proclaims his love for Beth.
I love you.
Not at all sudden.
I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
Beth, of course, reciprocates his love because musicals, and they sing Iffen.
If and I do, only if and I say
If and I say I love you,
if and I say
if and I say I do, if and I say that, I say that, if and I do, only if and I do.
Would you say right back to me, I love you too? If and I was to mind you, if and I happen to.
The love fest is short-lived, however.
Nuts!
When Sandy and Beth meet up with his mother, she turns an icy nose up at Beth, and that sours her to the whole relationship. Liz arrives as Beth tells Sandy to finish that marriage contract and make it foolproof.
She's pissed.
Sandy tries to warn Liz about some kind of stumbling block in the negotiations, but Liz won't hear any of it and sends him to finish the job. She soon regrets, of course, not finding out what this stumbling block is, and her friend Maud offers up that it's probably because the Duke would be embarrassed to have a mother-in-law like Liz.
Ouch.
Later, on the moonlit deck, Liz and the Duke run into each other. Liz tells him that she knows there's a problem with the negotiations, and if she's the problem, she'll agree to make herself scarce. The Duke, whose real name we learn is Jaime,
Poor Jaime.
tells her in fact it's the opposite, grabs her and passionately kisses her, much to Liz's pleasant surprise. She asks the Duke to go get Sandy her lawyer right away, which he does, and she sings "This Is What I Call Love."
This is what I call love. When it's right, you know it's right.
This is one of those songs I mentioned earlier that got replaced later in the run. This one with the song "Just a Moment Ago."
Now in no time at all, I am something to someone, and the world has become one big glow.
I like this one better than the first one.
The Duke returns, but before he can reach Liz, he's bombarded with reporters who've sort of gotten word that there's a big wedding about to be announced, and Arturo takes that opportunity to officially announce the wedding of the Duke to Liz's daughter, Beth.
In just 8 days, these two happy kids will be husband and wife.
Liz is heartbroken, and the curtain falls on Act 1. Intermission! And you know what you do at intermission, right?
That's right!
You subscribe to this channel! Give this video a like. It would mean so much to me if you would. Hit that bell, give it a like, subscribe. Let's keep going. Act 2, here we go. So we're now in Philadelphia, PA, at Liz's estate where she's throwing a massive party to welcome the Duke. All the guests dance and sing a newfangled tango.
Oh, you start off with one step and cling to each other, and you know how one step can lead to another. Oh, there's nothing wrong with a waltz or fandango, but oh, what can come from a newfangled tango?
Members of the Philadelphia High Society are there to get a gander at the new royal in town, even though they can't stand Liz.
And I can't stand him.
And this gang of snooty old ladies decides to embarrass Liz. Apparently, one of the first times she was introduced to high society in Philadelphia, she had completely humiliated herself at a fox hunt.
She's passing the dogs. Mother of Jefferson Davis, she's passing the fox.
So these devious little old ladies plan to set up another hunt in hopes that she'll embarrass herself again. Beth enters and dances with her now fiance, the Duke. Dinner is announced and the guests leave the dance floor.
Dinner is served.
But before Beth and the Duke can stop dancing, Sandy tries to cut in.
Mind if I cut in?
But Beth says that she's still upset with him for his mother's treatment of her, and she and the Duke leave arm in arm. Sandy sings "She's Just Another Girl."
She's just another girl, like any other girl. I'd like to know just what's so special about her.
After dinner, Liz takes a walk to the stables. She talks to her horse Daisy, who she's supposed to ride tomorrow, and explains the situation at hand. The horse, by the way, was played by an actual real-life horse named Mo, who could nod his head, yes and no, and even look embarrassed. Quite the performer. Liz then sings The Game of Love.
When the game of love begins and the wheel of romance spins, someone loses, someone wins in the game of love.
This is the other song that was replaced later in the run, this one with the song I'm Old Enough to Know Better.
I'm old enough to know better, but I'm young enough to not care.
In another part of the estate, Beth has called for Sandy. She wants to know if there's any way she can get out of this marriage contract because she actually really loves Sandy. Sandy says he loves her too, but there's no way. The contract is airtight.
Now, this contract is 100% ironclad, with one minor exception.
The only way would be for the Duke to break the contract himself. And as luck would have it, the Duke enters at that very moment.
What are the chances?
Beth musters up the courage and tells the Duke that she doesn't love him.
I don't love you.
And he says that he knows, but that shouldn't get in the way of a happy marriage.
I'm sorry, I just started hearing really loud circus music in my head. What did you say?
He says that some of the best marriages in his family history have been loveless.
What's love got to do with it?
The Duke leaves and the heartbroken couple embrace and kiss, a kiss that's witnessed by Liz's friend Maud. It's now the morning of the big hunt. Liz enters and everyone sings Happy Hunting.
Tallyho! Everyone's on the hunt for whatever they want and whatever you want. Happy hunting! What a day for a hunt! Keep that eagle eye peeled and look over the field. Happy hunting!
The hunt is quickly ruined by a thunderstorm and Liz is thrown from her saddle, but luckily only bruises her ego. Can I just say, the show's called Happy Hunting. They set up the hunt in Act 1 when they tell about the story about Liz embarrassing herself, and they're leading up to it this whole time. We finally get to the hunt, they sing the big title song, and then like immediately, because it's not convenient, they eliminate the hunt with a thunderstorm, and that's the end of it, and it's never talked about again. That kind of stuff drives me bonkers.
Okay. Did you get it out of your system?
Okay, back to the show. Later that night, Liz and her friend Maud are getting ready for the big hunt ball that Liz is throwing, because apparently when you have a hunt, you also have to throw a ball.
You're now invited to the hunt ball.
I don't understand.
Maud tells Liz about Beth and Sandy kissing, but Liz dismisses it. Beth then enters with big news.
Big news!
Grace Kelly has written to the Livingstons. Apparently, Grace Kelly had no idea that they were in Monaco, and of course they would have been invited had she known. And in fact, they're invited back to Monaco as their special guests whenever they want.
We our guest, be our guest.
Liz, realizing that now there's no reason to try to one-up the royal couple, starts to feel guilty for forcing her daughter into this marriage when she clearly doesn't love the groom.
You think?
And she sends Beth to fetch the Duke. Liz decides that there's just one thing for her to do: marry the Duke herself. The Duke enters and he and Liz finally proclaim their love for each other. Liz sings I'm a Funny Dame.
I'm a funny dame. Maybe I don't say I love you. Maybe sometimes I don't exactly show I love you.
And to respond, the Duke immediately sings This Much I Know.
But if I'm sure of nothing else, I'm sure I need your love. This much I know. This much I know.
After the song, however, suddenly Liz starts to doubt their relationship, wondering what a man like the Duke could possibly see in a woman like Liz, and she decides that it must solely be for her money. She confronts the Duke about her suspicions, and he tells her that he loves both her and her money.
¿Por qué no los dos?
She is deeply hurt and kicks him out. That has got to be the fastest boy gets girl, boy loses girl situation in a musical ever.
True story.
At the big hunt ball, the reporters are all trying to figure out who of note is in attendance. They sing Everyone Who's Who, which is definitely not the most confusing song title of all time.
Everyone who's who. Everyone who's here.
Who's he?
Who's who? Oh, he's who's who.
Who?
He.
Oh.
Everyone who's who.
Arturo enters the ball looking for the Duke, saying he's got big news from Spain. Beth enters the ball with big news of her own, announcing that she just eloped with Sandy.
I've eloped.
Not only that, it was the Duke himself who drove them to the chapel.
That I was not expecting.
And since Beth chose her son over an actual Duke, Sandy's icy mother immediately starts to warm up to Beth. On top of that, her and Liz bury the hatchet, and it looks like Liz is back on her way to being accepted into Philadelphia high society.
High society!
The Duke then enters and tells everyone the big news from Spain. It has been decided that he absolutely has to marry someone of royal blood or he will lose his crown.
You're a prince, and you're going to marry a princess!
Liz is, of course, instantly heartbroken, but the Duke tells her that he never wanted to be king anyway, renounces his title, and asks Liz to marry him.
Aww. Nice.
They sing a reprise of Mutual Admiration Society.
We belong to a mutual admiration society.
My Jaime and me.
The happy couple walk off stage as the curtain falls. The end. Well, what did y'all think?
It was okay.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so now that feud I mentioned between Ethel Merman and her co-star Fernando Lamas.
Yeah, tell me.
Apparently, tensions started to rise when Mr. Lamas expressed his dislike for the way that Merman was reading her lines sort of out to the audience instead of directly to him.
Why do you keep talking that way?
A standard practice for theater performers, but Mr. Lamas was from the film world and it just didn't work for him.
You know, just talk like a normal person, okay?
Merman informed him that she'd been acting that way for 20 years. He then responded, "That doesn't make you right, that just makes you old."
Oh, snap.
Lamas was also apparently very concerned about Merman stealing all the focus from him during their scenes together, so he had to think of something. Apparently, Fernando Lamas was extremely, shall we say, anatomically gifted. Reportedly, it was legendary. So to make sure focus stayed on him, he had his costumes tailored to specifically show off his talent, and it worked too. There were reports of gasps from the audience when he entered. As the run of the show progressed, Mr. Lamas' antics got more and more unprofessional.
Eat my shorts.
Like after the big kiss between him and Merman, he would cartoonishly wipe his mouth with disgust.
That's not cool, man. Come on.
It got so bad that Merman even appealed to Actors' Equity to bring him up on charges.
You think that I'm going to sit still while some un-American foreigner makes accusations? Well, we'll see about that.
Though the show ran for a year and made a small profit thanks to the large number of advanced ticket sales based on Ethel Merman's name alone, for me, it's hard to categorize this one as a hit.
A hit is a hit, and this, my friend, is not a hit.
So what does all this have to do with the career of Stephen Sondheim?
Stephen Sondheim.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, Ethel Merman disliked her time on Happy Hunting so much that she vowed to never again star in a musical with a score by an unproven talent.
Never again.
So when she was approached for her next project, the musical Gypsy, with lyrics and music by Stephen Sondheim, she absolutely would not hear of it. So to appease her, they brought on Julie Stein to write the music, and Sondheim wrote just the lyrics.
Intricate lyrics.
Thank you all so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it and learned something.
It was okay. Teacher seemed kind of weird, though.
If you did, I would really appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And go ahead and share this with the brassy diva in your life. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Broadway by Ghostlight. I'm Mark Bonanni. I'll see y'all next time.